Every single month, millions of hardworking people walk straight into an invisible financial trap, and the most terrifying part is, they have no idea it is happening. They believe they have an income problem. They convince themselves that if they just earned another $1,000 a month, everything would suddenly fix itself. But history proves, over and over again, that higher income without a mindset shift is just a faster path to bankruptcy. What if the real reason you are feeling stuck isn't the size of your paycheck, but an internal psychological program designed to keep you broke? Right now, two distinct groups of people are walking the exact same streets, earning the exact same salaries and living in completely different worlds. One group is quietly buying back their freedom, day by day, while the other is trading their finite time for temporary status symbols that depreciate the moment they are purchased. If you want to understand why 90% of people stay trapped in the rat race, regardless of how much money they make, you need to look at what happens in the brain, seconds before a purchase is made. If you leave this video right now, you will continue to fall for the exact same consumer traps that hold back millions, but if you stay until the very end, you will discover the subtle mindset shift that permanently separates true investors from lifelong spenders. At any age, let us begin with a striking real-world case study. Consider two colleagues working at the exact same tech firm, both making six-figure salaries. The first colleague, let us call him David, buys the latest luxury vehicle, upgrades his apartment, and dines at high-end restaurants every weekend. On paper, David looks incredibly successful. His social media is a showcase of wealth, status, and lifestyle. But behind closed doors, David lives in a state of quiet panic. His monthly expenses consume 95% of his income, one unexpected emergency, one corporate layoff, and his entire life collapses like a house of cards. Now look at his colleague, Sarah. Sarah drives a reliable 6-year-old sedan, lives in a modest space, and rarely buys luxury items. To the outside world, Sarah looks average, almost invisible. But while David is busy spending his capital to buy the illusion of wealth, Sarah is quietly funneling 40% of her income into low-cost index funds, real estate assets, and cash-flowing investments. Fast forward 10 years, David is still trapped on the corporate treadmill, forced to work 50 hours a week just to maintain his debt, while Sarah reaches complete financial independence. Her investments now generate more passive income than her daily salary. Sarah did not get lucky, she simply possessed a fundamental psychological framework that David lacked. This brings us to the core difference between spenders and investors. Spenders view money as a tool for immediate consumption, while investors view money as capital for future leverage. To a spender, a dollar is something to be traded for a product, a service, or a momentary burst of status. But to an investor, every single dollar is a microscopic worker, a worker that can be sent out into the market to earn more workers, day and night, without ever taking a day off. When a spender spends money, that capital dies permanently. When an investor deploys capital, that money stays alive, compounding and multiplying indefinitely. Why do so many intelligent people fall into the spender trap? The answer lies deep within human neuroscience. Human beings evolved in an environment of immediate scarcity, hundreds of thousands of years ago. If our ancestors found food, they had to consume it immediately. Saving was impossible. That ancient biological wiring is still active inside your brain today. Every time you see something shiny, new, or prestigious, your brain releases a surge of dopamine. It tricks you into believing that buying this item is essential for your survival and social standing. Spenders are completely controlled by this primitive dopamine cycle. They feel stress, so they buy something to feel relief. The relief lasts for a few hours, then fades, leaving behind debt, stress, and a need for another purchase. Investors, on the other hand, have learned to hijack this system. They train their brains to get dopamine from growth, security, and ownership, rather than consumption. An investor feels a deeper rush of satisfaction watching their dividend portfolio grow by $500 than a spender feels buying a $500 designer jacket. Consider the business breakdown of modern retail corporations. Companies do not just sell products, they spend billions of dollars researching behavioral psychology. To exploit your subconscious vulnerabilities, they design frictionless payment systems, one-click buy buttons, buy now pay later schemes, and targeted advertisements meant to trigger feelings of inadequacy. They know that if they can make you feel inadequate, you will spend money to buy validation. Spenders fall victim to these hidden strategies every single day. They work long, exhausting hours, only to hand their hard-earned capital back to the very corporations they work for. Investors see right through this game. They understand that true wealth is not what you spend, true wealth is what you keep and multiply. Wealth is the luxury cars you did not buy, the expensive watches you passed on, and the status items you ignored. Wealth is invisible. It is the unspent capital, the assets, the real estate, and the quiet peace of mind that comes from knowing you owe nothing to anyone. Look at the underlying math of lifestyle inflation. As people age and their careers progress, their income naturally rises. A person might start their career making $30,000 a year, struggling to get by. 10 years later, they might be earning $100,000 a year, yet, surprisingly, their bank account balance looks exactly the same. Why? Because as their income grew, their spending grew at the exact same pace. They bought a bigger house, a more expensive car, costlier clothes, and took pricier vacations. They upgraded their lifestyle, but locked themselves into a higher tier of financial bondage. This is the central tragic flaw of the spender mindset. They confuse high income with high wealth. Income is simply cash velocity, wealth is retained capital. An individual making $50,000 a year who saves and invests $10,000 is building far more long-term freedom than an individual making $200,000 who spends $205,000. The spender is constantly running faster on a treadmill that never stops, while the investor is quietly building a staircase out of the gymnasium. How do you transition from a spender mindset to an investor mindset? Regardless of your current age or income level, it begins with implementing friction into your financial life. Spenders make purchases effortlessly and think about the consequences later. Investors create systems that force them to pause, reflect, and calculate opportunity cost before making any non-essential purchase. An investor calculates what that money would be worth if it were invested for 20 years at an average return. That $100 pair of shoes isn't just $100, it is $500 of lost future freedom. When you begin to view expenses through the lens of compound growth, your behavior changes instantly. Furthermore, investors automate their capital allocation. They do not rely on fragile human willpower at the end of the month. They set up automatic transfers that send a portion of every paycheck directly into investment accounts. Before they even have a chance to touch it, they pay their future selves first and force themselves to live on whatever remains. This simple micro-strategy eliminates emotional friction and guarantees consistent capital growth. Regardless of market conditions, age is never a valid excuse to delay this transition. A 20-year-old has the ultimate power of time. Small amounts invested early turn into massive fortunes through the exponential power of compounding. A 40-year-old has the advantage of higher earning potential and clearer focus, allowing them to deploy larger amounts of capital rapidly. An 60-year-old has the power of wisdom, efficiency, and capital preservation strategies. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. The ultimate goal of adopting an investor mindset is not greed. It is not about hoarding pieces of paper or staring at green numbers on a digital screen. It is about buying back control over your time. It is about reaching a state where your daily survival is no longer dependent on an employer, a market shift, or a corporate hierarchy. It is about waking up every morning knowing that your financial future is completely secure, because your capital is working harder for you than you ever worked for it. The choice before you today is extremely simple, but profoundly life-altering. You can continue operating on impulse, chasing short-term dopamine and feeding the consumer machine, or you can take control of your financial destiny, rewrite your internal programming, and start building a real estate of lasting assets. The distinction between a life of constant financial anxiety and a life of total freedom